Right now, somewhere in the quiet of a bedroom, a small blue light turns on. The room is dark. The body is tired. The day is over. But the mind is not. A thumb begins to move. A screen glows inches from the face. Images slide upward in an endless stream. Messages, headlines, short videos, faces, movement, color. It feels harmless, it feels relaxing, it feels like a way to unwind. But deep inside your skull, something very different is happening because your brain does not understand just one more scroll. It understands light, it understands stimulation, it understands threat, reward, novelty, and at night, when it is supposed to be powering down, that glowing rectangle sends a very clear signal. Stay awake. Inside your eyes, tiny cells at the back of the retina react to the blue heavy light from the screen. These cells are not used for seeing shapes or reading text. They are light detectors designed for one purpose: to measure the brightness of the world around you. For thousands of years, this system worked simply. Bright light meant daytime, darkness meant night. But now, long after the sun has disappeared, your brain is being told that morning has returned. A signal travels from the eye into a small region deep in the center of your brain, your internal clock. This clock controls the timing of almost every system in your body. It decides when you feel alert, when you feel hungry, when your body temperature drops, when sleep hormones rise. And right now, as you scroll, it receives confusing information. It was preparing for darkness. Instead, it senses daylight. The clock hesitates, and that hesitation changes everything that follows. In another part of your brain, a small gland waits for instructions. As evening falls, it normally releases melatonin, the hormone that gently tells your body it's time. Melatonin does not knock you out. It does not force sleep. It simply lowers the lights inside your nervous system. It slows reaction speed. It softens alertness. It prepares the brain for deeper cycles of rest, but when bright screen light hits your eyes, melatonin release slows, not completely, not dramatically, just enough. And that just enough is where the hidden shift begins, because sleep is not a switch, it is a sequence. Your brain moves through stages: light sleep, deeper sleep, and the powerful dream-rich state known as REM. Each stage has a role. Some repair tissues, some organize memory, some regulate emotion, some clear metabolic waste from brain cells. If the timing is pushed back by even an hour, the structure of the night changes. You may still fall asleep, you may still close your eyes, but the architecture beneath the surface becomes unstable. As you scroll, your brain's reward system also activates. Every swipe is a possibility, a new image, a new message, a new surprise. Small bursts of pleasure chemicals rise and fall. Tiny spikes of excitement ripple through neural circuits designed to seek novelty. This system evolved to help you survive, to search for food, to explore new environments, to stay curious. But at night, it was meant to rest. Instead, it stays alert. Deep in the midbrain, dopamine, the chemical of anticipation, flickers in response to unpredictable content. Not because what you see is life-changing, but because it might be. And might be is enough to keep the system engaged. This creates a subtle tension inside your nervous system. Your body is tired, muscles are heavy, eyes may burn slightly, but your brain is stimulated. Two signals compete. One says, shut down, the other says, keep going. Most people never feel this conflict directly. They simply notice they are more awake than expected. They scroll longer than planned. Minutes become half an hour. Half an hour becomes an hour. Inside the brain, however, the delay has consequences. Your stress system, which should be lowering its activity at night, remains slightly elevated. Cortisol, often called the alertness hormone, does not fall as smoothly. Heart rate stays a little higher, brain waves remain lighter and faster, and the deeper, slower waves needed for true recovery are postponed. As midnight approaches, the brain begins to feel something new: mental fatigue mixed with overstimulation. This is when scrolling often accelerates. Because tired brains crave easy reward, the more exhausted your frontal cortex becomes, the part responsible for judgment and self-control, the harder it is to put the phone down. Decision-making weakens. Impulse control fades, the glowing screen wins. Meanwhile, another quiet process is being interrupted. Throughout the day, your brain produces waste products as it burns energy. Tiny metabolic byproducts build up between cells. Normally, during deep sleep, a special cleaning system activates. Fluid flows more freely through brain tissue, washing away accumulated waste like a nighttime maintenance crew. But this cleaning system depends on deep, stable sleep, and deep sleep depends on timing. When scrolling delays sleep onset, deep stages are shortened. Cleaning is reduced, not eliminated, just reduced. Again, the damage is not dramatic, it is subtle, which is why most people never connect the dots. They wake up feeling a little off, a bit foggy, slightly less sharp, maybe more irritable, maybe more anxious. They blame stress, work, age. Rarely do they suspect the last hour before bed. Inside the emotional centers of the brain, another shift is forming. REM sleep, the stage where vivid dreaming happens, plays a powerful role in processing emotion. During REM, the brain replays experiences from the day, but in a safe environment. It strips away some of the emotional charge. It recalibrates stress responses. If REM is shortened or fragmented, emotional regulation weakens. The next day, small frustrations feel larger, reactions feel quicker, mood feels unstable. Scrolling before bed, especially through emotionally charged content, news, arguments, comparison-driven social posts, primes the emotional brain just before sleep. The final images seen before darkness become the last impressions stamped into memory. Your brain does not know they are trivial, it treats them as real, and so it processes them. As nights repeat, a pattern forms, sleep becomes lighter, dreams become shorter, morning grogginess increases, concentration drops slightly, memory becomes less reliable, stress feels harder to manage, and because the changes are gradual, they blend into daily life. But beneath the surface, your brain is adapting to a new rhythm, one shaped not by sunset, but by a glowing feed. Over weeks and months, the internal clock shifts later. You may find it harder to fall asleep without stimulation. Silence feels uncomfortable. Darkness feels restless. Your brain begins associating bedtime not with stillness, but with activity. The bed becomes a place of input, not recovery. And the deeper problem is not just lost sleep, it is disrupted cycles, because your brain runs on rhythm. Hormones rise and fall in predictable waves, temperature changes, alertness peaks and dips, memory systems reset. When the rhythm is pushed back every night even slightly, the timing between systems drifts. The brain prefers consistency. Scrolling introduces variability, and variability, over time, creates instability. The danger is not in one late night, it is in repetition, the quiet, everyday habit that seems harmless, the nightly ritual that slowly reshapes internal timing, the light that tells your brain it is always morning. As the weeks pass, you may notice you need more stimulation to feel alert, more caffeine, more scrolling, more content, because the brain that is slightly sleep-deprived craves more dopamine, and the cycle tightens. What began as relaxation becomes dependence. What began as distraction becomes delay, and all of it begins with that final hour before sleep. Deep inside your brain, changes are accumulating, not dramatic, not catastrophic, but real. And most people never notice until the consequences begin to surface in ways they cannot ignore. The real shift is not just about feeling tired, it is about how your brain rewires itself around the habit. And that rewiring is only just beginning. The rewiring begins quietly. Your brain is built to adapt. Every repeated behavior strengthens certain pathways while weakening others. This is how you learn languages, develop skills, and form habits. But it is also how small, nightly actions reshape long-term function. When you scroll before bed night after night, your brain starts linking stimulation with the moment it was designed to wind down. Neurons that once fired in a pattern of slowing waves now fire in faster rhythms. Instead of drifting into deeper states, the brain hovers closer to alertness. Even after the phone is turned off, subtle activation lingers. You may close your eyes, but your nervous system is still processing. Inside the hippocampus, the region responsible for forming new memories, a delicate transfer normally happens during sleep. Information gathered throughout the day is sorted, strengthened, or discarded. Important memories are stabilized. Irrelevant noise is cleared, but when sleep becomes shorter or fragmented, that sorting system loses precision. Memories may feel blurrier, details slip, learning takes more effort. You reread the same line twice, you forget small tasks. Not because your intelligence has changed, but because consolidation was incomplete. At the same time, the emotional center of the brain, the amygdala, becomes more reactive when sleep is shortened. Under normal conditions, the rational frontal cortex helps calm emotional responses. It acts as a brake, evaluating whether a situation is truly threatening. But sleep loss weakens this brake. Studies show that even mild sleep restriction can increase emotional reactivity by large margins. Frustrations feel sharper. Anxiety rises more easily. Small conflicts linger longer, and when scrolling content before bed includes intense news, comparison-driven social feeds, or rapid shifts between images, the brain enters sleep already stimulated. It carries that stimulation into dreams. The next morning, you wake up slightly more alert to threat, slightly more sensitive to stress. Again, not dramatically, but repeatedly. Inside your bloodstream, another shift unfolds. When sleep is delayed, the natural drop in nighttime blood pressure becomes less complete. Heart rate remains slightly elevated. The body stays in a mild state of readiness. Over months and years, that persistent mild activation can strain the cardiovascular system. The heart prefers rest cycles. Blood vessels prefer rhythmic recovery. Instead, the system remains gently switched on. Your metabolism also feels the impact. Sleep plays a powerful role in regulating hunger hormones. When deep sleep is shortened, the hormone that signals fullness decreases, while the hormone that signals hunger rises. Cravings intensify, especially for quick energy foods. The brain, already slightly deprived, seeks easy fuel. This is why nights of late scrolling often lead to stronger appetites the next day. You may not connect the two, but your body does. Over time, small nightly delays can subtly influence weight regulation, energy balance, and blood sugar stability. And yet, the screen still feels harmless because the damage does not feel immediate, but the brain keeps adapting. There is another deeper shift that most people never consider. When you expose your brain to constant novelty before bed, you train it to expect stimulation during quiet moments. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Stillness feels incomplete. The mind begins to crave input whenever boredom appears. This reduces your ability to tolerate mental downtime, the very state needed for creativity, reflection, and emotional processing. Moments that once allowed the brain to wander freely are replaced by external content. The brain's default mode network, the system active during daydreaming and internal reflection, becomes less engaged. Instead of processing your own thoughts, you consume someone else's. Gradually, this can weaken introspection and increase dependency on external stimulation for relaxation. You may find it harder to fall asleep without the phone nearby, harder to sit in silence, harder to unwind. Without a stream of distraction, your nervous system becomes conditioned to associate calm with scrolling. And that is where the deeper danger lies. Not in the light alone, not in the lost minutes, but in the rewiring of expectation. Your brain begins to believe that rest requires stimulation, that quiet requires noise, that sleep begins with scrolling. This pattern can shift your circadian rhythm later and later, especially in younger brains. Teenagers and young adults are particularly sensitive. Their internal clocks are naturally set slightly later, and blue light pushes them even further. The result is a cycle of late nights, early alarms, chronic mild sleep restriction day after day, month after month. And because society still demands early mornings, the brain never fully repays its sleep debt. The cleaning system that flushes metabolic waste during deep sleep works less efficiently. Proteins that should be cleared accumulate slightly more. Cognitive sharpness declines gradually over time, again, not instantly, but progressively. So what is the reveal? The hidden change is not traumatic damage, it is subtle destabilization, a slow drift away from natural rhythm, a slight misalignment between light and darkness, a small daily shift that compounds. Scrolling before bed does not destroy your brain overnight, but it gently reshapes its timing. its reward circuits, its emotional balance, and its recovery systems. And the longer the habit continues, the more normal it feels. The brain adapts to its new baseline. Fatigue becomes expected, mood variability becomes familiar, cravings become routine, and because the effects are scattered across many systems, sleep, mood, focus, appetite, they rarely point back to the final hour before bed. But here is the critical part. The brain is also remarkably reversible. Neural circuits strengthen with repetition, but they also weaken when habits change. When you remove bright light in the final hour before sleep, melatonin rises more smoothly. Deep sleep lengthens, REM stabilizes, emotional regulation improves. Within days, many people notice sharper focus, calmer mood, easier sleep onset. Within weeks, internal rhythms begin to realign. The fix is not extreme, it is not complicated. It begins with protecting the final 60 minutes before sleep as a transition zone. Lower light, slower input. Reduced novelty. Allow the brain to shift naturally from stimulation to restoration. Replace scrolling with dim light activities, reading printed pages, gentle stretching, quiet music, conversation. Even simple boredom, because boredom signals safety. Safety allows sleep if a screen must be used. Reducing brightness and enabling warmer light settings can soften impact, but distance and timing matter more than filters. Most importantly, consistency restores rhythm. Going to bed and waking at similar times retrains the internal clock. The brain responds quickly when given stable signals. The final hour before sleep is not empty time. It is biological preparation, a runway for the most important recovery process your brain performs every day. Right now, tonight, that choice is waiting. Not dramatic, not urgent in the moment, just a small decision between glow and darkness. And inside your brain, the difference between those two environments shapes far more than you can see.